Imagine a city, a powerhouse of culture, innovation, and American dreams. Now imagine a shadow stretching over its towering skyscrapers, a gaping maw that silently devoured an astonishing $40 billion. This isn't a dystopian novel. This is a true, chilling story of Chicago, Illinois, a story of corruption so audacious, so deeply embedded that for decades, powerful forces tried desperately to bury it. They wanted you to believe it never happened, to dismiss it as urban legend. But the truth, like the ghost in the machine, refuses to stay hidden. Today, we pull back the curtain on the $40 billion scandal that rocked the Windy City to its core, revealing the unbelievable secrets they tried and failed to conceal. Bigger secrets. Chicago, often celebrated as a city of big shoulders, built its legend on grit, industry, and a vibrant spirit. From its architectural marvels to its legendary sports teams, Chicago embodies American ambition. Yet, beneath this glittering facade, a different kind of legend simmered. One whispered in hushed tones, chronicled in forgotten archives, and fiercely denied by those in power. This isn't just about a few bad apples. It's about a systemic rot, an institutionalized kleptocracy that siphoned off public funds on a scale that beggars belief. For decades, the narrative was carefully controlled, painting a picture of isolated incidents, a few rogue politicians. But what if those incidents were merely symptoms of a much larger, more insidious disease? What if the true cost of this corruption wasn't just a few million here or there, but a staggering $40 billion, enough to rebuild entire communities, fund world-class education systems, or solve countless societal challenges? The genesis of greed, a perfect storm. To understand how $40 billion could vanish, we must journey back to the city's formative years, a time when rapid expansion met lax oversight. Chicago's meteoric growth in the 19th and 20th centuries created a perfect storm for corruption. Massive infrastructure projects, canals, railways, the very grit of the city, presented irresistible opportunities for graft. Contracts were awarded to cronies, bids were rigged, and public coffers became personal piggy banks. This wasn't unique to Chicago. Many American cities faced similar challenges. However, in Chicago, it became an art form, perfected and passed down through generations. The political machine, a complex web of patronage and influence, didn't just tolerate corruption, it often thrived on it. Jobs, favors, and political advancement were often tied to loyalty and silence. This early ecosystem of corruption laid the groundwork for the colossal financial hemorrhaging that would define its later history. The invisible empire. How $40 billion vanished without a trace, almost. How does a sum like $40 billion disappear? It wasn't one grand heist, but 1,000 paper cuts. The scandal wasn't a single event, but a cumulative effect of decades of malfeasance across various sectors. Think about ghost payrolls, thousands of individuals drawing salaries from city, county, or state agencies without ever showing up for work. These were often political appointees or their relatives, paid to do nothing. Their salaries funneled back into the machine or directly into private pockets. No-show contracts. Companies winning lucrative contracts for services never rendered or for substandard work at exorbitant prices. Roads that crumbled too soon, buildings that required constant expensive repairs, or supplies purchased at triple market rate. All while legitimate businesses were sidelined. Rigged bids and kickbacks. From garbage collection to school renovations, vital city services were often awarded through a rigged system. Bribes and kickbacks were normalized, adding significant hidden costs to every public project. Pension fund exploitation. Public pension funds, meant to secure the retirement of city workers, became tempting targets. Questionable investments, exorbitant fees paid to politically connected firms, and outright embezzlement slowly eroded these vital funds. Property tax schemes. The complex world of property assessments and tax appeals became another fertile ground for illicit gains. Connected individuals could secure drastically reduced property taxes, shifting the burden onto ordinary citizens, or manipulating property values for personal gain. Leaseback scams, selling off public assets, only to lease them back at inflated rates, generating huge profits for politically connected buyers while costing the city millions in long-term expenses. The infamous parking meter deal is just one example, though its true cost extended far beyond initial estimates. Each instance, on its own, might seem manageable, but when compounded over decades, across dozens of agencies, through countless administrations, the figures spiral into the unbelievable. The official accounting often obfuscated these losses, hiding them within complex budgets and financial reports that few outside the inner circle truly understood or dared to question. The whispers and the whistleblowers, a glimmer of hope. Despite the formidable power of those who benefited, the truth couldn't be entirely suppressed. Throughout the decades, brave individuals, journalists, disillusioned public servants, even ordinary citizens, began to whisper. They saw the disparities, the opulence of those in power juxtaposed with struggling public services. Investigative journalists, often risking their careers and even their safety, dug into obscure financial records, followed money trails, and exposed fragments of the larger picture. Whistleblowers, internally horrified by what they witnessed, eventually came forward, often at great personal cost. They revealed intricate schemes, names, dates, and the mechanisms of the financial siphon. These acts of courage, often isolated at first, slowly began to chip away at the wall of silence. Each exposure, each arrest, however small, validated the growing suspicion that something was fundamentally rotten. The unveiling, when silence was no longer an option. The full scope of the $40 billion scandal was revealed in one dramatic courtroom showdown. It was a gradual, painstaking process, piecing together fragments from disparate investigations, audits, and journalistic exposures spanning multiple administrations. What emerged was a pattern, an institutionalized method of operation that had become normalized. The true figure of $40 billion isn't just a number. It represents lost opportunities, underfunded schools, crumbling infrastructure, and profound betrayal of public trust. It's the cost of a city's potential, stolen and squandered. The attempts to hide it included intimidation, cover-ups, and the relentless dismissal of critics as disgruntled or politically motivated. But as more evidence mounted, as the sheer scale of the financial hemorrhaging became undeniable, silence was no longer an option. The city was forced to confront the ghosts it had tried so hard to deny. The legacy and the future. Can Chicago heal? The reverberations of this colossal scandal are still felt today. It fundamentally reshaped public perception of governance in Chicago and beyond. For citizens, it bred cynicism, a deep-seated distrust in the very institutions meant to serve them. For the city, it meant decades of financial strain, limited resources for vital services, and a constant uphill battle to restore its integrity. However, confronting this dark chapter also forced reckoning. Greater transparency, more stringent oversight mechanisms, and a renewed commitment to ethical leadership have slowly begun to emerge. The fight against corruption is never truly over, but understanding the past is the first step toward a more accountable future. Chicago, the resilient city of big shoulders, is now grappling with the weight of its past, striving to build a future where a $40 billion ghost can never again haunt its streets. The story of what they try to hide is a potent reminder. The truth, no matter how inconvenient, always finds a way to surface.